Hi there, I'm Ricardo, or Skullky. Not really sure about this point. Introductions aside, this is a pretty big subject for me, due to the fact that this game series has influenced and redefined what my music taste is. All my love for music, soundtracks, favorite bands, and the creation of my blog to some extent, it's all thanks to these amazing games. I've been wanting to make a video about them for a while now, but I struggle with it because it felt like such a daunting task considering how much I have to say about all these games. And also because I've never really done a video like this. But I'm not really sure what this channel is about anymore.
Who's sex?
So that being said, I am going to go through all the Tony Hawk games in order of my favorite, based mostly on the soundtrack and other oddities. I will be excluding these games because I have never played them and have nothing to say about them, other than what most people already know. Starting with Project 8, I really don't have much to say about this game. This was the last game I got for my collection. I even played Proving Ground first. Me being a GameCube kid, I didn't have the chance to play this game when it came out, like so many other games. I eventually got a PS3, but by the time I got it, the newest game was Proving Ground, so I just jumped straight to that one. I also got Sonic 06. So, by comparison, Proving Ground was a masterpiece. I even sold Proving Ground, then got seller's remorse due to the fact that my collection was incomplete, and I rebought Proving Ground, and even by then, I still didn't have Project 8. So when I finally got it, the game just didn't say anything to me. By the time I finally played it, I had already played a shit ton of Proving Ground, and a shit ton of Skate 3. Yes. So it's due to these reasons that out of all the prime Tony Hawk games, this is the one I played the least, and hence my least favorite. I know for some this one is far better than Proving Ground, but for me this game was just Proving Ground with less stuff. That's all I got for this game. I have a lot of fond memories from this game. Being one of the first PS3 games that I got, I poured a lot of hours into it. And like I mentioned before, compared to the other PS3 game that I had by the time, I really didn't have much of a choice. I really liked the graphics, and they were amazing for me by the time. This was my first next-gen HD console. I went from GameCube to this. Other than the graphics, I really enjoyed all the silly mechanics they added here, from the aggro kick, the nail the trick, even though it was a Project 8 thing, but it was new for me here, and the aggro shove, the aggro push, the thing where you just hit people and made them ragdoll all over the place, especially if you turn on the cheats that made dudes fly 100 miles per hour. That was fun. But what really got me hooked on this game was the simple video editing software. The whole setting up the cameras and making montages with all the clips you got and using the game's music library, that for me was extremely cool and got me hooked in the whole idea of video editing from a very young age. So in a sense, I owe a lot to this game, considering video editing is what I ended up pursuing later in my adult life, and well, this. But now, for the bad things. Even though I played this game as much or even more than past titles, the music never really did it for me, and that for me was a super mega con. The fact that till this day, when I think of this game, only one song pops in my head, and it's a violently average song, bewilders me. Also, the level design was bland at times, and the wackiness that was such a Tony Hawk staple was fizzling out. The story was fine, I guess. It wasn't very memorable. Then later on I got Skate 3, and the identity of this game became clearer because it was so painfully obvious that they were trying to imitate the Skate franchise, and that's where I think this game fails. Because when Proving Ground remembers it's a Tony Hawk game, it shines with the silly cheats, crazy abilities, and random missions from time to time. So for me, this game will always have a weird feeling, because I appreciate when I used to play it, but now it sits in a weird middle where if I want to play Tony Hawk, I'll play anything from American Wasteland to the original. And if I want to play Skate, I'll just play Skate. The one that started it all, Neversoft's first baby. It was a very successful baby, enough to span countless sequels. Where I stand with this game is more of an appreciation than anything else. This is because I played it very late in my life. When I played it, I had already played all the other games from Pro Skater 2 to Proving Ground, except Project 8. You're always last. I ended up getting a copy of this game just to complete the collection, and because I wanted to experience the start of it all. but you can imagine, having played all the other games, made passing this one particularly hard and pretty annoying at some point. Of course, I understood it was because I was so used to certain mechanics, it was impossible to rate this game fairly. That being said, the soundtrack as always was amazing, and future titles hooked me on bands like Goldfinger and Suicide Machines. So I already knew most of their songs by this point. So when Goldfinger Superman started playing, I was excited because it had been my favorite Goldfinger song for a really long time, and I indirectly fell in love with this song thanks to Pro Skater 4 having Spokesman. And at the end of it all, this is why I love these games, for all the songs and bands I now directly or indirectly know. Overall, I like this game a lot, but I always like later games due to the timing and age I played them. We are in the big leagues now. From here on out, all the games I am going to mention are my favorite in one way or the other. No longer are any of the upcoming games in either of these two categories. All these 6 games are special to me one way or the other, and are what I consider the best of Tony Hawk. But of course, one must be last from this bunch, and that for me, after a lot of thought, sadly is Tony Hawk Underground. For me, this game has the weakest soundtrack out of all my favorites, and the general vibe of this game was just more serious and less wacky, which I didn't really like. Something they overcorrect in the next one though. I also don't really remember the story much, to be honest, other than that scene where you jump a helicopter. At the end, I think it was. But people tend to say it's the best in the series if you're into that. I just overall don't enjoy this one as much as the rest. I do like a lot of things from it though, like the secret characters, the amount of customizations you can do, the kiss stage, I thought it was kind of funny, and of course, the new mechanic of being able to walk. All in all, I do love this game and I enjoy playing it a lot, but I rarely want to play it over the other games coming up. I do love this stupid tiki thing though. It's probably my favorite thing in this game. The one that started it all for me. This was my very first Tony Hawk game. By far one of the games I played the most as a child. The music didn't really capture my attention as much, given the fact that I was a simple-minded child. Though it still had some jams that I thought were interesting, and slowly but surely were seated and engraved in my subconscious, altering and shaping up my music taste before it was ever a thing without me even noticing the everlasting effects that it was having in my brain, likings, and life. But yeah, I have a lot of good memories from this game. From the sound effects that are still prevalent in my mind, and the thing that blew my mind the most, I could ride a skateboard with Spider-Man from one of my other most played games of the time. I also quite enjoyed the cheat codes. My brother and I would put this cheat code on and fly, and then go straight to the New York stage and crash against the taxis while flying to make them bail harder. It was a bit sadistic, but it was very fun to do. I used to have my PS1 and games at my parents' office due to the fact that I would spend more time there than my actual house. This dude climbed to the second floor window, broke into this highly sophisticated building, and stole, and only stole, my PS1 and games. I longed so much for this game that I tracked it down later in life and bought it again to play it in my PlayStation 3. Still find it fun to this day, and consider this game to be one of the best out of the PS1 library. Little side note here, I didn't include the new remake of Tony Hawk 1 and 2, since it's a remaster and not a full-fledged entry in the series. Though this game is nothing but amazing, and for me and a lot of people brought back what makes Tony Hawk games incredibly fun. So if it were included on this list, it would be around here. Pro Skater 3 is a weird one for me because just like Pro Skater 1, I got it out of order. My next game after Pro Skater 2 was Pro Skater 4. I got Pro Skater 3 in between of Underground 1 and Underground 2. This is why I tend to prefer Pro Skater 4 even though everyone tends to like 3. Still, I absolutely love this game and have countless hours in it. I just wanted to make clear and explain why I tend to prefer 4. Now this game introduced something very important to the franchise, and that is the revert. This completely changed this game to a more combo-oriented system, and I for one love this. Making crazy amount of points is exhilarating. So even though I do not love this game as much as the next one, it holds a very special place in my heart for introducing my favorite mechanic in all of these games. I should probably talk about the soundtrack, but as always, the soundtrack is mad good, and this game gets extra points for having one of my favorite songs of all time. Man, I really wish I could play it right now. It's so hard talking about these games without putting any
I was in a very famous team.
American Wasteland. I love this game so much. The soundtrack in this game is fantastic, by far one of my favorite in the whole franchise. This one goes a bit more emo / alternative, and for me it was a good transition, giving this game a somewhat identity separating it from the rest. Probably the reason this game is so high in the list is almost solely because of the soundtrack. Maybe a bit of nostalgia. I also like the free roam aspect of the game, even though it wasn't hard to tell when the stages were loading and the odd tunnels from stage to stage, but it was still really fun to just jump and ride your way to the stages. I found the BMX stuff interesting when I was younger, but the more I used it and the older I got, the less I used the bike. It was a wow factor in the moment that hasn't particularly aged well. The parkour system falls around this same feeling as well. It kind of just looks silly now. But now for the bad, because even though I love this game, there are certain things that just don't work for me and found super annoying. The stages are a bit boring due to the fact that the theming is just California.
Why you bully me?
Making most stages look the same. It has some gems though, like the park you make, the casino, and oil rig. Though I still can't believe they didn't bring Alcatraz from Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. To me, it was just such a missed opportunity. This game's already all in Cali, though it is on the DS version. Then there is the split screen. For some reason, at least for me, it just didn't feel right. All the other games are so fun in multiplayer. I felt less inclined to play this version with my brother, and always opted to just go to another game. Overall, amazing soundtrack, pretty fun in some areas, and the first attempt of free roam is always cool. Pro Skater 4 was one of the first games I got for my GameCube, and the second Tony Hawk game I ever played. This is the one that changed everything, the one that made me fall in love with the franchise, and the one where I actually started to pay attention to the music. Almost all my favorite bands come from this game, and the next one in the list, which you probably already guessed due to process of elimination. I have a ton of good memories playing this game, probably the game I played the most with friends and family. This entry in the franchise brought the pseudo free roam newer games would all in some way adopt, and I welcome this change because, well, I was terrible in classic mode, like really bad. This game also has two of my all-time favorite stages, which are College and Alcatraz. Here's a list of all my other favorite stages from each game if you're curious. This game also sparked a lot of my dumb teenager humor from years to come. Things that cracked me up then and a bit to this day. It was just such a silly, fun experience, and at the end of it all, that's the best thing of this game. It's just fun, man. Nothing more, nothing less. Playing split screen with friends, finding all the secret areas and playing with all the secret characters, all accompanied with an amazing soundtrack. There isn't much to complain here. It is one of the greats. Tony Hawk's Underground 2 is by far my favorite game in the series and the one I have played the most. The overall feeling of this game's gameplay is on point, almost fine-tuned to perfection from all the other entries. Everything from the trick system, combo progressions, and overall feeling just excels. Just look at this gameplay. The freedom and control you have here are unparalleled to the other game entries. Now, people tend to bash the story more than anything here, and well, yeah, the story is all over the place, taking more inspiration from Jackass than skating itself.
You ever think the last word you're gonna hear would be?
Bruh. Jackass was really in by the time this game came out, and in a way it makes Tony Hawk feel like a secondary character in his own game. But back then, I was really into Jackass and all these other things this game takes inspiration from, so what can I say, this game felt perfect for my dumb teenager brain. Nowadays, story-wise, I find it silly, but it still makes me happy and laugh in a nostalgic sort of way. It's just fun. But no one really plays these games for the story, to be honest. It's sort of an extra feature, but that is not even remotely all to why I love this game so much, because I have not talked about the soundtrack or all the secret characters. So let us start with the characters. This game had a crazy amount of characters. I mean, you could play as Shrek, my guy, before it was even a meme. Not just that, the creator character of this game had a bunch of options. I made over 5 to 6 characters that I fell in love with. Thanks to this game, the name Skullky came to be, because that was the name I gave my character. This game pretty much influenced everything in a way. I love every single song here. My love for Frank Sinatra and Johnny Cash began thanks to the soundtrack's inclusion of Ring of Fire and That's Life. And that's just one example of a bunch more. I owe so much to this game that it's not even funny. So yes, this is without a doubt my favorite game out of all the Tony Hawk games. And by extension, one of my favorite games of all time.
I'm whooping your ass!
And that's my list. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. I have always found these games special because any of these games can be someone's favorite for a multitude of different reasons, and I think that's really cool. I want to give a special thanks to my good friend Luisa for drawing these very accurate doodles of me. Maybe I'll do more videos like this in the future, but who knows? Let me see how it goes. Okay, bye.